So here we are today, snowing outside, and we're going to install a vintage dash from California, a 1971 240Z. We're going to go through the process today, show you a little bit about how to do it so you can see it by video. And one thing, I don't know if most of you Datsun people know, but on every single dash in this location is a signature from the guy in the manufacturer or gal in Japan that put that dash in. That's the signature. So every one of them has a different one on it. Check it out, it's kind of neat. But we'll update you through the day on how it goes. They say this is a 2-hour process. If you've done any kind of maintenance or anything like this at all, you'll know that when they say 2 hours, you multiply it by 4. So we will talk to you in a bit. Okay, step number 1. Remove the gauges. That won't be that hard. And the next step is all these screws that are holding this outer shell to the metal come out. And the reason why we're taking this dash and replacing it is because it's got these big cracks in it. Okay, I'm going to talk about the dash, how to get this out. This thing, because it was so old, just popped out. So that doesn't look like there's any kind of holders on this. I think there was some little bit of tabs on that one. But so there's screws. You got 2 screws here, 2 screws there, and then down in here there's 3 more. But our next thought was, how do we get that out? So instead of breaking it, we probably should get the manual. So we'll give that a try. We'll see what happens. We'll let you know. All right, so we're on the back side of the dash, and you have to get the gauges out. So one of the problems we were looking at is, okay, so how does this actually come out, the light? Because the light is actually attached to the wire harness. So this is how you get it out. Just tweak it. And if you look at it, it's got that little tab on it, and that lines up with the other end of it where you can see the top part of that. Simple. Just twist it out. Not going to break. On this side, I had to take the defroster off to get this off, and I think Adam's going to replace this because it looks kind of nasty. This comes off next. 3 screws. I put them back in place. Of course, one's not. I'll get the other one in there. And then we'll pull this out. Oh. You got a picture of that? Yep. Anyway, so now we're at the dash again, and we've got all these screws that we need to take out. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side. So we're going to work on that next and get the rest of the dashes out. So the next gauge that came out is the fuel and amp gauge, and I'm not quite sure if everybody knows this, but the entire wiring, electricity for the car, comes through this gauge, so that can measure amps. So this is a wire, looks like a 10 wire from the battery. It goes in here and it comes out, and then it goes through the fuse box. So we're going to have to take all those off to get this gauge out. Okay, so they say an hour. I'm thinking we're almost an hour into just tearing this down. So the gauges were a lot of fun, especially the amp gauge. but we've got all those out now. And now we're going to go work on this side over here and get these taken out. So we're getting ready to take the tack and speedometer out. But what we did is on all these locations we used a Sharpie and we marked on both sides so we know exactly where the wiring harness goes, because we're going to pull that out even though Adam doesn't want to.
Oh no, I don't.
Yeah. So, but now we're getting these out, and you'll notice that we marked the location of how they are so that when it goes back in, you're set. All right. Okay, dash teardowns pretty much complete. We got a few more screws we have to take out to get the dash cover off. For you people that are taking the tack and the speedometer out, they go out the front. These come in from the back. So remember that. Tack, speedometer are pushed through the front. They take a little bit because they've been sitting in there for years. As you can see, there's like a little lip that it creates. So, but still they go out to the front because you're not bending these things, these two pieces here. So come out the front. So now we got to take some more screws out. I want to figure out how this comes out of there. I think I'm going to take the screws, take that apart, and then see if we can take it apart from there. But I'll get back with you on that. And if you come in here, there's the wiring, there's the whole wiring harness. And what we did on every place where the holders are, we marked it. You can't hardly see it, but we marked it so we know exactly where to put it back in place. Now to get the cover off, we're having to take the old cover and peel it back because it's like tape holding it together. Peeling that stuff back. That's our process now. Okay, so we got the cover off. Notice there's some more writing up under here. But yeah, it was not hard to get that cover off of there at all. This is 1971, early 71, January 71 dash. And we're about ready. Here's what we just took off. Yeah, that book helps. If you need it, it's a good book to have. So he's gonna keep this. This is in such good shape, other than the cracks in the top. And I think we may be able to send it somewhere and have someone do, or use it for a mold or something. So that's that one. And we're getting ready to test fit the new one. So I had a lot of tools, but these are the only ones you need. Number 2 Phillips, short and long, a knife, X-Acto. You can probably use a knife or just the X-Acto. The Sharpie to mark the location of the wiring harness, and that's an 8mm nut driver to take off the nuts that hold on the instruments, and the phone to take a shit ton of pictures so that you don't screw it up when you put it back together. Okay, so we wanted to test the lights for the rheostat for the dash instruments. So this is what we ended up coming up with. So this is a battery out of my race car. 12 volts. You need 12 volts to do this. If you use the 9 volt, which we tried, it will not light the lights up. So we took the rheostat connections and we hooked those up to the positive on both sides of it. So we bypassed the rheostat. And then we just put a little wire in the ground. And since all these lights, if you look at them, that metal tab grounds it. And then you can test all your lights. And they work. Now you're also going to have indicator lights, and the indicator lights, like if something's going wrong, have 2 wires on them. So those won't light up. But we may need to figure that one out too. But anyway, that's a good way to test your lighting. I just put connectors really easily in there. It's not a hard thing to do. Okay, back at it. So we're now putting on the new vintage dash. And there's a little bit of differences in the original dash and the one we're putting on. If you look in here, I get out of light, you can see that there's a lip down in here. And this tab on the original dash is supposed to go over this. Same thing with over here. You can kind of see that gap. And then this plate, when it comes in, it should go underneath this, or it should be real close to it. So what we're going to do is, these holes already line up. So we're going to try to screw these in on that side and on this side, and then work our way out and push it down, because you can see the gap that it has over there. So we're hoping to pull that up in place, but the middle section fits right, so that's not a problem. But again, you can see the gap, and then there's a step down here. So what that's doing is not allowing this to come over the tab. And now we're going to go over the original dash. That's our dash helper, Poppy. Now if you look at this dash, which is original dash, see how thin this is? Real thin. And it's flush. It's flush all the way. And that's the problem with the vintage dash. It should be smooth like that, and it's not. So we're going to give that a try. See if that works. And be right back. Okay, so it worked by putting these screws in first. And then we did the upper ones in, and then we did the side ones last, which pulled it into place. It's a really nice fit. It's really not that hard to do. It's a heck of a lot easier than the plastic dashes. Of course, I think this was $900, but you know, you could get an old dash, an original old dash. If you can find one that's not cracked, you know, you can find it, but they're expensive. So, and the longer it goes, the more expensive it is. So here's the only problem that I don't like about the kit, like we talked about. So these tabs on the original dash, the dash is thinner here and down farther, so it's underneath this. We put the valance on it, and it may work or may not look as good, but there you would have to shave a lot of material in here to get that to fit properly. So we did put it underneath the data plate, but overall, yeah, not bad. Let me try to tip it up and we'll show you. So it's installed. Vintage dashes. Too bad. We had to take the glove box part out to get it to fit in there. This piece lined up really well. Gonna have to end up, this stuff ends up being tucked around and glued underneath. A little fit and finish in here and tuck this stuff around. We got to cut out a hole for the fuse, the flashers, and we're going to go ahead and we'll have to cut a hole for the rheostat and for the odometer reset over here. So yeah, not too bad. Next, I think we're going to install the gauges first and then put the wiring harness in. So we're going to do that backwards. So I'm thinking that might give us more room. We'll try that. So let's talk about a little bit of fit and finish. So there's the rheostat. And we had to drill out to get that in on that side. So, when I was stuck on it. Leave it on there.
Yeah, it's in there good.
So what we did was we used a smaller diameter drill bit on the inside and came through this way, and then we took an X-Acto knife and cut the vinyl so that we could get the drill bit through. And then we figured, oh, well, that's not the right size, because if you look at that hole, what the hell's that? Right here, that's where the reset for the odometer goes through there. So we took a drill bit that size, pushed it through that way, and we had to make the hole bigger. So we used this 30 seconds. Anyway, so use a small drill bit, go through it first, come up through this side with a bigger one, because you got to have that diameter, and it works. There you go. That's all I got for you. Okay, so we took the 240Z dash, the old one, apart, took the vintage dash, put it on, got all the instruments back in, got it fitting in 5 hours. So you can easily do it in 5 hours. We actually took a nap, power nap. I like that because I'm old. And also ate lunch. So, and it looks really good. We'll have to see how it ends up in the car. But it's got to do the fit and finish stuff still. We found out that he's got to get a new glove box. But it actually turned out really nice. So really not that hard to do. Just take your time, and hopefully some of the tips we gave you along the way worked out. So it is done. 1971 240Z. Good luck.